Welcome, everybody. This is the Wednesday co-stream that we do with Nick Gibbs, Investing Against the Grain. We got Hans Nelson, and you can check out his YouTube channel, Hans C. Nelson. We're talking about a post that Elon just made earlier today. He said this. He said, Tesla will be one of the companies to make AGI and probably the first to make it in humanoid, atom-shaping form. So there's a couple of things here I want to talk about. First of all, to make it AGI, that is, I think most people assumed that XAI Grok was going to be what we're using to power the human or robot and also autonomous cars. But this is Elon confirming that Tesla, not XAI, Tesla will be one of the companies to make AGI. He has referred to the RFSD as baby AGI, so this shouldn't be a surprise. But then he said first to make a humanoid, which is again something we've all known, but atom shaping form, that kind of suggests other kinds of form factors. Let's start off with you, Hans. What's your thoughts? Also, I'd like to kind of just mention to folks that today will be Hans' last Wednesday with us. He's got a lot of projects he's working on, but we did appreciate having him for the last month or two. But Hans, tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah. So I guess just briefly to touch on that, I think a lot of people have seen that I've been pulling back from various different venues, whether that's with Farzad, I've also announced that I'm pulling back from working with the Tesla owners of Silicon Valley guys. We haven't been doing as much recently, and all of that has really been born out of, they're just projects that I want to build. And so I've been ramping up more and more on that, and I haven't really communicated well to the audience what that was going to be yet, because it was really still fuzzy what that was going to look like. And really all of that came into focus here over the last couple of weeks. And so I have a pretty clear direction moving forward, working on stuff that allows me to help content creators take a back catalog of incredible content and make it more interactive and more usable for audiences. And right now I've got kind of my first project in the works there. That's probably not something people would have expected, mostly because it's a really low-hanging piece of fruit for the type of work that I'm doing. And yeah, so that's what I'm moving into these days, is a lot more building and a lot less talking. I've really loved, so I do need to say thank you to everyone that has participated in this up to this point. Whether, this is the internet, there's a lot of people making a lot of content around. If you've listened to me over the last year, 2 years, couple years and change, that means a lot. Making content for you guys has been a huge part of my learning journey, and it's been hugely constructive for me. So really appreciate that. And I really appreciate all the people that I've worked with, whether that's you, Nico, Herbert, Farzad, and John, Joe, Brian, and a whole host of guests that I've had on my own channel over the years. It's been really awesome just to get to work with such incredible, brilliant minds and have these cool conversations. So really thankful for all of that work. And but I'm excited now to take the things that I've learned from all of that experience and translate that into building product. And so I'm going to be a lot less public facing for the next, little bit, and then we'll see kind of what gets born out of all of that. So yeah, excited.
We're going to miss you, Hans, but I'm glad you're going to be a builder again. That's what you were at the beginning. And then I'll raise my hand. I'll be the first customer of yours.
I was about to say, I was like, all right, I didn't realize I would be able to use this. Like, Hans, like, you're supposed to tell me this beforehand so Herbert can't jump in front of the line.
Yeah, well, that's, I've got to, I've got to get the alpha testing done and kind of see how that goes. And then I will definitely let you guys know when it's ready for being let loose on. So the content library that I'm focused on is very, very structured, which makes it pretty easy as a starting point. And so like, I didn't even start with my own content because my content is very unstructured, and it's going to be very difficult, comparatively, to go back through that and make it usable. So the product has to mature from here to there. But once it is, you guys will be right at the top of the list to work with. So I'm excited, when I can get to that point.
Thank you so much, Hans. Okay, that was good.
Excited,
We'll
man.
see. We'll have you on
Yep.
hopefully whenever you have free time. But yeah, this is why
Yeah,
we have you.
definitely.
Talk about
I am going to
AGI.
be.
Yeah.
I am going to be excited also just to come back in and check in with people. You know, I don't want to completely disappear off the face of the
Well,
earth. So,
and to talk about, you know, the success or the trials and tribulations you face, you know, the like
Of
just
building,
the
yep.
story, like, yeah, like, you know, take people along on the journey of Hans.
exactly.
Ooh,
It'll be a lot of
podcast
fun.
right there.
Yep.
The journey of Hans.
All right. So moving into my actual answer here for, you know, Tesla will be one of the companies to make AGI. I think there's a couple of layers to that. Obviously, you touched on the XAI versus Tesla layer there, Herbert, but there's also, you know, a lot of other people are working on this. And I think that in Elon's mind, Google specifically is probably going to be the first one to crack digital AGI. Anthropic is kind of a surprising player also. Their ability to put Claude, you know, especially Opus 4.6 out there, it is an incredible model at a lot of things. And also 5.3 Codex is an incredible model for coding. And so, you know, all of these things together between Gemini, Anthropic, and OpenAI, you know, the landscape at the frontier is very competitive, which is actually great for all of us. It's great for humanity that this is not turning into some runaway single player race, because I think that, you know, the tension, the competitive tension and the competitive dynamics between them really helps to keep them in check. It allows each of their strengths to shine more so, and then their rough spots to be mitigated. And they all kind of have some strengths and some weaknesses, you know, some more so than others. So that's going to be one layer in Elon's answer. The interplay between XAI and Tesla is really interesting because, you know, this is the Muskonomy, this is the Elon verse, and those two companies already work so closely together. Like, how do you really say what's XAI and what's Tesla and XAI? And as they share chips and resources and all, like, it's going to get more and more difficult to distinguish. The revelations that we got earlier this year about how XAI is using AI for computers to basically emulate digital humans. I think that's the strongest single piece of evidence that we have right now. XAI is kind of leading the forefront of the development work on the AGI on the digital side, but they're using a lot of Tesla resources to do it. And so, you know, Elon can plausibly say that Tesla is building this because they are participating in the building of it. And then when you tie in the cars on top of it too, and that is baby AGI, like all of these things layer together, and there's not like a clean answer, I think, that people are going to be able to just pinpoint.
There's two ways to look at this. I think one is that Tesla, as a separate company, has their own AI team who's already built baby AGI with autonomous cars. So they have the skills to also compete against XAI, against Gemini, against everybody else, and doing it in a different approach, which is, you know, context-aware physical reality. Or maybe he's saying this as in, well, guys, SpaceX is going to go IPO in a few months. We're going to probably merge with Tesla, and Tesla will be one of the companies to make AGI.
Yeah, also very possible, especially, you know, with XAI folded into SpaceX. That he's just thinking about all of that as one thing. What do you think, Nico?
You know, I'm thinking about what do I think. Funny enough. So I think there's a big. Let's start off with the problem. I see too much in the space. Now I'm big. A problem I see too much in the space right now is that we use these terms fast and loose, like AGI, and at this point, everybody has a different interpretation of what it means, and it means something different for everyone. And so I think that post by Elon, I feel like it doesn't have a lot of context to start with, because everyone seems to have their own interpretation of what AGI is. So I want to just like level set there. So I wouldn't get too up or too down either way about it, especially when he says one of. I do think that if there's any company that is going to forget about AGI, just forget about the whole term. I do think that Tesla will be the only company to truly monetize AI the way we all think AI will be disruptive and monetizable. At the end of the day, as an investor, that's what I care about. So definitions aside, I think Tesla will be that company. I think it starts with autonomy. I've said that for I don't know how many years now. And then I think from there, it goes to humanoids. All these LLMs, agents, OpenClaw, all these cron jobs that are getting more sophisticated with the ability to have LLMs in between for good reasoning. Hans mentioned a few frontier models between Anthropic and Gemini and GPT, etc. They're getting a lot better. A lot of the reason why they're getting better, obviously, different training sets, little techniques that they're using, but also we're layering in a lot more memory with it, right? So we can have a consistent thread on iterations over a longer period of time, and we can keep that context going in a conversation or tasks that are happening. So there's a lot more things going on, and that's exciting, but I still don't think that that's going to be the true unlock for a company to have massive amounts of revenue. I think that happens out here in the physical world. I think the physical world is the untapped potential that the internet hasn't been able to grasp. And so I think it's like out here in the physical world, it's like we're still living in archaic caveman times, whereas online everything is so futuristic. And I think autonomy, humanoids bring the physical world into that space. But to go back to the post again, because it's going to help me with my train of thought. I want to go somewhere. So the humanoids and atom shaping form. So to me, when I think of artificial general intelligence, I think of something that's more than just zeros and ones on a computer screen. I think of something that moves through physical space, something that I can interact with on a daily basis, and it just takes things to another level. And I think Elon's right. I think for us to get to what maybe most of us truly think AGI is, if we're not hedging or trying to soften the language of what it means, to me, you're going to have real world data. I think it's the only way you get there. And that's why FSD is baby AGI, as someone said earlier. The humanoid is a whole different beast. And I think what Tesla is building, along with XAI, is they're building a frontal lobe. A frontal lobe is essentially made up of two components. You get your prefrontal cortex and you get your motor cortex. And the way I think about it, and sorry if this is redundant because I've kind of said this before, but your prefrontal cortex is responsible for the reasoning, right? And that is essentially where I think the grok side of it is. And that's where we're seeing a lot of these models get a lot better with reasoning, having better memory, all that. But the motor cortex, I think that's what the humanoid team have been working on. The Optimus team have been working on. All the dexterity, walking in different environments, upstairs, sandy beaches, going down hills. And so once you combine both of those, I think at that point, you're essentially there. That is true AGI at that point, in my opinion, once you've been able to redevelop a frontal lobe.
I will actually contend against you on that one, but I like your framing in your picture. I think as I'm learning
that's why we're kicking you off. That's why you're not leaving us. We're kicking you off. Go against me. No, go ahead. Challenge me. Help me rethink what I'm thinking.
There's a great book by Jonathan Haidt called the Righteous Mind, and one of his pictures in there, which I know that he stole from somewhere else and I can't remember where, is that the neocortex, the whole neocortex, is like a man riding an elephant. And
explain to people what a neocortex is.
It's your prefrontal cortex and your motor less so your motor cortex, but mostly, yeah, your prefrontal cortex. It's the very top layer of our brain that's built on top of all of the other stuff that other animals have. And so it's the, the more advanced version of what chimpanzees have. It's the thing that other mammals don't have at all. And so it's the rational part of your brain. Like it's where a lot of your conscious thought is happening in your neocortex. And we like to think, hey, this thing's in control. Like I'm a rational person. I can make my logical decisions. And when the elephant allows the rider to control where it's going, that's true. But then you have your fight, flight, freeze response, which is all deeper down in your brain. And it's closer to your brainstem. It's closer to where all of your actual, where your emotions live and where your motor control actually lives. And when it wants to short circuit the neocortex, it can and does. And there are a lot of parts of that system that we don't necessarily want to build into AI, but there are parts of that system that I think go dramatically underappreciated by the wider AI research community that are incredibly important for building actual AGI, in addition to the different components of the neocortex that are kind of missing. And like memory is a big part of that whole system. And that's, when people talk about memory is not really a solved problem yet in AI, it's because memory is, part of that lower level limbic system brain. And that's a kind of an open problem. And it's kind of an orthogonally, that's one of the problems that I'm working on with the projects that I'm doing. A content creator's back catalog is a memory bank. And so translating a memory bank into useful output for someone who's coming to it and asking questions, like it's a memory problem. And so memory is one of the things that I'm fascinated by and coming to the work that I'm doing in order to try and solve.
So where's your pushback?
That it's not just the neocortex.
Agree exactly with me.
That we don't just need the neocortex, that we need the other parts, in addition to motor cortex
fair.
and prefrontal cortex, we also need memory and some of the deeper things in the brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So
alignment.
Right. So AGI, right?
All right,
Obviously,
Honda Stain, everybody.
You guys went deep into what AGI is. This second sentence that he said, though, is very interesting. So not only did he say Tesla will be one of the companies to make AGI, but he also then said it's going to be the first to make it in humanoid, atom-shaping form. So humanoid, we already understand, right? That, we know that humanoid robots, Optimus, that's what they're doing. But atom-shaping form opens it up for interpretation. What he means by that, it could be just simply, vehicles as well, right? But it could also mean any form factor as well. Any form factor. So this is not the humanoid is just the beginning of all sorts of things that Tesla's going to do for physical AI. But you had a good answer on this when I talked to you prior to this going live here, Hans. What was that?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's lots of different ways to shape atoms, and humans are a great general form factor for shaping atoms. But then when we want to shape lots of atoms quickly or lots of atoms into the same shape, then we build a lot more specialized machines. And that's exactly what factories are. And all of the big machines that go into factories are, those are atom shaping machines. So Tesla's vehicle lines, their lithium refineries, their battery manufacturing machines, all of those things can be enhanced and optimized even further with actual embedded intelligence that is connected to the wider intelligence of, Tesla as a company. Elon talks about it as a cybernetic collective. And as we're going to turn up the dial on the proportion of artificial thoughts and artificial intelligence reasoning capabilities in this cybernetic collective, it's going to take over more and more and more of all of those atom shaping components. And you'll end up having fewer human operators that are actually running all of these machines and more purely digital operators that are doing those things. And so like he's working on building a Muskonomy collection of companies, and this is not going to be isolated just to Tesla. This is also true of SpaceX. Like Starlink is probably the most advanced manufacturing capability that he has right now. And that's part of SpaceX. So yeah, if you combine, and I think that's another reason why the SpaceX and XAI merger made a lot of sense, that they didn't really talk about externally to the public. I'm sure that the private market investors who are invested in those companies are actually seeing this, that there is integration between the work that XAI is doing and the manufacturing work that SpaceX is doing. And that's actually on its own flywheel, and it's expanding. And so this is going to dramatically accelerate Elon Musk's ability to shape atoms, and that atom shaping capability is going to be the number one moat of, any of the big companies of the next few decades. That if you can't shape atoms, you're definitely going to be at a competitive disadvantage for any real world application. And I mean, we want intelligence to actually shape our real world, not just our digital world.
Yeah, this competition for AGI is the Mag 7, right? And the companies you mentioned.
Well, more than that.
But Tesla is the only company, I mean, you can argue it, that is actually doing AGI for factories, manufacturing, and real physical things. That is something different. I mean, you don't have Google doing it. You don't have, I mean, you can say Amazon might be doing it. Meta's not doing it, except for the glasses that they don't even build. Apple's not really doing it. They've outsourced all of their manufacturing to everyone else. Anthropic's not doing it. OpenAI's not doing it. The only company that really has AGI for physical manufacturing is Elon. And so he's going to build, and then it's like, that's the flywheel. It's like, how the coding guys have such a huge advantage, because if you build the best, OpenAI's Codex is considered to be the best today, Anthropic's Claude Code. But if you have the best coding, then it builds its own version, and then it builds its own version, and that's how they have the race to AGI. But who's doing that on the physical side, except for Tesla? Because you have your AGI making your factories, your robots, different form factors, all becoming better and better, and then they build themselves and they build themselves. There's no one else. There's no one else that's competing. Maybe the Chinese are going to copy this, but and clearly they are. That's who's going to be the only competitor at this point. That's, I think, the big takeaway, that is the number one differentiator.
So I got a couple of thoughts on that. It's my turn to disagree. So I don't really agree that it's only Tesla. And when I think of what he wrote there, I read it a little differently. Like in my mind, I think maybe more so like what you were saying, Hans, where Starlink will have elements of AGI, where in my mind, I think they're going to get into drones. And those drones will have a lot of AGI built in, right? To talk about move the atoms. I think, this might sound crazy, but I think Starship, I think they will be autonomous at some point, and I think they will be going up.
I mean, they already are.
Well, they're very human operated still. So that's what I think is. I think after the vehicles and the humanoids, I think it's going to be drones, and after drones, I think it'll be like Starship. As far as Tesla being the only one as far as manufacturing, I don't think that's true. They're the only ones that we follow actively. I would say most companies now that are building any type of new factory or in any serious capacity are leveraging AI in many ways. I mean, we can sit here and just say that Tesla is the only one working with AI in a factory, but like, what AI are they using in the factory right now? We don't even know. Like, so we're just saying that just fast and loose. So I would just say, like, whatever they're doing, don't think that other companies aren't doing very similar things or trying to do similar things, whether it's through cameras for automate. I mean, there's pretty much like, I don't want to say something I can't say, but
Here,
it's
I'll
pretty
say
much-
something for
Go
you.
ahead.
real
No,
quick.
wait.
So,
No, wait. The race to AGI is consolidated to the massive big seven or the big 10 or big 20, you want to call it. You take billions of dollars. You need massive supercomputers. You need neural nets. You have to have all the smart people.
Mhm.
Those are the ones who are racing to AGI. And then there's physical AGI. And there's only of that group, only Tesla is actually have manufacturing factories. Not, of course, every factory out there is going to
Okay,
use
I agree with that.
AGI.
Then I agree with that
Every
statement.
every factory is going to use it, no doubt. Everybody's going to do it. But the race to this acceleration of what he said, humanoid and atom shaping AGI, you can only do that with a flywheel of actually
Yeah.
having the manufacturing in your house. Every single camera
It-
that's in a factory, yeah, it's
It-
spotting things and
Yeah.
and then building itself, right?
I just
yeah, they have
so-
deeper vertical integration so that they can run the innermost flywheel faster.
But that's what I was gonna say. So like again, I don't want to say too much, but
Other Mag
Arguably-
7s are doing it. Sure. Yes.
no, I was gonna say I actually agree when you put in that context of the Mag 7, Mag 20, Mag 50, whatever. You're
Yeah.
right. It's Tesla is one of two, I would say.
Yeah.
The other one is Amazon.
hmm
And obviously I'm speaking my book here,
hmm
and I can't say too much, but you could almost argue
Yes.
that Amazon might be more vertically integrated or just as much as Tesla. And I
Yes.
don't think there's another company out there that could even match
Totally agree with that.
side and
Yeah.
over indexes on vertical integration to a fault many times. So
You were going to say something,
Kumbaya.
Hans?
I agree.
Okay, very interesting statement. I think that it says a lot of things. Even the first sentence, I want to come back to it again because it's interesting. One of the companies to make AGI, and the first to make it in a human, meaning to say that he does think that AGI will be achieved by. There was a debate 2-3 years ago, and everybody said, asking all the top scientists, is AGI going to be achieved first by a software in a computer, a neural net on a computer, or is it going to be done by physical, real world kind of embodied AI? And I think it was 50-50 who thought it was this way. And I think eventually people started leaning towards it needed to be an embodied AI to become AGI. But here he's basically saying there's a form of AGI, like you said, Nick. It's your definition of what it is, right? So
Yeah, but just even going back to that, like all these scientists, all these researchers, to me, they're no different than analysts on Wall Street. Like, can people even name them? Like, they're so good, they're so smart. Apparently, we should listen to them. Yet, all right, name 5 of them. No one can. It's like I don't know. It's like, what have they done? Like, if they're so good and so smart and such a person we should listen to, what have they done? Where are they? The only people we know of are the doers, the people that have actually done something or figured something out and were in the field. And I know I probably sound like a lunatic here, but this over index on experts and scientists and researchers and analysts and all this stuff, they're always wrong. Every time they're wrong, every single time. Listen to the doers, the Elons, the Jensens, the Ron Barons, the Kathy Woods, the people that are actually out there, the people actually putting in the investments, the ones that are actually walking the factory floors, the ones that are actually allocating capital. They're the signal. And I think once people get that, like, the world becomes so much clearer, so much clearer. The people in the arena that are actually on the field, they're the ones that actually know what the reality is. I talk about it all the time, like when it comes to, I swear this isn't a plug, but when it comes to options, like, everyone reads a book and they're like, oh, I get this. I'm like, yeah, theoretically, yeah, you understand it. Real world looks way different.
Yeah.
Way different.
Put it in practice.
So like, yeah, you got to know that, but then the real world is messy, and that's what you really need to know. So sorry,
Yeah.
it bothers me so much.
is-
I hear
you're
this
absolutely
talk
true.
left and right every day.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't listen to anyone who's not marred by blood and sweat and tears.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. I think we did a good job with that one. It's the big news. I think Elon is very optimistic, bullish about Tesla, not XAI. He was talking about Tesla being AGI and what the goal is there.
Do you have a docket of things to come up here, Herbert?
There's a couple more topics we can talk about.
Go. Because I was
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is another big thing that we're maybe overreading into it, but in the careers pages in Berlin, okay, Europe, Tesla Giga Berlin, I guess, or Tesla's hiring robo-taxi autonomous vehicles engineers. Now,
Elon said that, right?
Yeah, he said at the interview a few days ago, he was asked, where do you see for Giga Berlin? And he said, I see this as building Tesla semis, cybercabs, and humanoid optimists there too. If Europe wants it, we will be the largest factory in Europe. But for them to hire somebody, you can just say, oh yeah, I mean, you need to hire the experts and the skilled wherever they happen to be. And there's obviously very smart and electrical design engineers all around the world. We're going to hire one in Berlin. Or it could mean, whoa, why are you hiring a robotaxi autonomous vehicle electric design engineer in Berlin now, unless you actually are planning to roll out robotaxi autonomous vehicles in Europe?
I mean, Netherlands, right? This month, supposedly?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we need to think about what the lead time is. Like, if you're hiring this person in the next month, the likelihood that whatever it is that they're working on is going to see actual deployment out into the real world is at least a year. And yeah, like, of course, Tesla should be preparing to put real stuff out into the world in Europe sometime in the next 12 to 18 months. Regardless, like, they should at least be, be prepared if the option presents itself.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I think it's coming fast. I think Europe's gonna be, once we start seeing it in the Netherlands and they're able to hopefully fast track unsupervised. Well, let's hope we can fast track that here first. But once we're confident on it here and it's scaling out here, if it gets to the Netherlands and we start, like, people start traveling to the Netherlands, like, Europe's small, right? Europe's tiny, really. Go from country to country. You better believe every Tesla fan, investor, whatever, are going to be flocking to the Netherlands to experience this, especially if it's a robotaxi. The same way we all did to Austin. And it's going to feel archaic for all these other countries. It's going to be egg on their face if they don't start adopting it. Maybe not for FSD specifically, but definitely when it's unsupervised autonomy.
Yeah, Elon is, he's setting up to create a populist uprising in all across Europe of demand for robo-taxis.
He's good at doing that, isn't he? Well, I was going to say the other kind of big news that it was, I guess, maybe last week's news, but it's also big news that's like a couple days away, March 9th, the NHTSA event at the White House. Like, I feel like that's going to be pretty big. At least I hope it is.
Yeah, there's two things we're waiting for next week. One is, I think it's March 10th. I've jotted down as March 10th. That's a NHTSA event. And NHTSA themselves made the announcement that it's going to be at the Department of Transportation's headquarters, and it's going to be a full day. That could be a really big event. That's March 10th. But on March 9th, apparently that's when Tesla has to reply to NHTSA's request for more data about what's been happening with their incidents and so forth. So we'll see what that is. But it's, I think it was requested a couple months ago, and then it's been postponed. And then now the final date is March 9th that they have to reveal that data. So those are the two things I think we're waiting for. That's Tuesday and Wednesday next week.
Herbert, do you know, is that a follow-up to the incidences? Okay. So,
yes. Yeah.
And do you know if that'll be public or is that just to NHTSA?
I do not know, but I'm assuming that whenever something is revealed to NHTSA, it becomes a public thing.
Okay.
I do not know the details of that. Yeah, I just did a whole nother show on this because I'm so upset with this 5 incidents.
You've done so good, dude. You like, kudos to you. Like, everyone should be. You did the homework that I know a lot of us, or me, didn't feel like doing. So thank you so much for that. Like you are,
No,
you're the man.
mainstream media has gone out there and it's become viral. Basically, every headline is saying that Tesla has 4 times worse, robotaxi accidents compared to humans because of 5 incidents in January, and all of them were fender benders. 4 of the 5 were under 4 miles per hour, and the one that was 17 miles per hour, it hit a post. So these things are just nothing burgers. They're all in parking lots. And yet, what do you see in headlines? So, I have a feeling, and this is what I'm hoping is going to happen. We'll find out soon because it's now March 4th. The February,
Next week.
yeah, well, no, but the February number should come out also for robotaxi incidents that have happened for
Oh,
both Waymo and for Tesla for
when does that
February.
happen?
Well, I don't know. Hopefully soon. And then what I'm expecting to happen is that all of these fender benders will go away. Because do you guys remember that there was a release, one of the releases that we all received, one of the dot releases that we got, people started reporting that, in their garages, they hit the corner or something like that. That happened. And that's why this coincided with this fender bender thing that was happening in January. I think that's been resolved. So if that was the 5 incidents in January, I'm hoping, knocking on wood, it's going to be 0. Or it's never going to be 0. There's always going to be something that happens, right? I think in one of the incidents out of the 17 that's happened, there was like an animal. They didn't say what kind of animal jumped in front. That happens. That happens. But we need to see this. We need to see this data, and hopefully that's the reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I just again, not to keep riffing on you. I know you got some stuff to go over, but I was listening to CNBC this morning before the market opened, and David Faber, you guys, if you don't know who he is, he's the one that interviewed Elon a couple of years ago now, right after the earnings call. Essentially said that people can't buy him, right? Anyways, David Faber was saying that, there are rumors, and I know we know about this, but the fact that they're saying it today on CNBC is interesting. But there are rumors, again, that once SpaceX IPOs, that there will be a merger between SpaceX and Tesla. So it's just interesting to hear that coming up again on CNBC in particular by David Faber. So sometimes I wonder with these people, kind of like Nick Timiraos. He's kind of like known as like the Fed whisperer. It's like he's the person that the Fed leaks things through so that it gets out there and disseminated before it happens to prep the market. I think a lot of companies do that as well intentionally. I think Tesla also does that.
Yeah.
So not saying that this is something, it might be nothing. He might just be talking about something that someone else said, but where there's smoke, there tends to be fire.
Yeah,
so,
I think
SpaceX is going to acquire Tesla for $420.69 a share.
Yeah, you're going to start that rumor, Hans?
I've already started it.
There you go.
It's just it's not catching on.
Peter Diamandis had a post.
4,200. Sorry.
I'm looking for it now, but Peter Diamandis had a post.
694.20.
Sorry, we're mature, Herbert.
It's okay.
You're dealing with children here. Just patience, everybody. We're helping Herbert practice for his son-in-laws. All right.
Peter Diamandis had a post yesterday, and he said, the rumor is that SpaceX is going to go IPO, or going to file for public offering this month in March at 1.75 trillion. And then in that post, he also kind of mentioned a future merger with Tesla. Elon replied, and he basically kind of confirmed what he said there was true. So that could be, another signal that yes, it's happening.
Do you have that handy by chance?
I am looking for it now while we're talking, but
okay. Yeah, I missed that completely. But it is interesting because ideally what they would want to do is, so they would have to create a new cap table, right, in order to bring both of them together. And in that cap table, ideally, you'd want both to be worth the same value, right? So essentially like 1.7 trillion each, 1.75 trillion each. So I don't know, like Nick's speculating here. So what's what would Tesla stock price be at 1.75 trillion?
Yeah. So in this post, he did not talk about Tesla, but he did confirm. He said, funding humanity's future, SpaceX IPO rumors, 1.75 trillion valuation. So number one, that number, 1.75 trillion, to filing in March. Capital for Starship, Moon, Mars, and Earth's Dyson Swarm. This isn't a company going public, a civilization expanding outward. He said yes. So, so he's confirming the 1.75 trillion and the filing in March. Now, if they file in March, I think it still means that they're going to IPO in June.
Yeah, I think it's like 90 days or something I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to know. I mean, like you saw how fast SpaceX acquired XAI. So, when they want to move fast, they can move fast.
Yeah. The answer to your question is 466.42. Nico.
Okay, there you go. So just saying, I think Tesla's at least
according to the Google AI.
Yeah, I'm convinced that when let's follow this along. SpaceX files for IPO at 1.75 trillion. They actually do IPO. It's going to go to 2 trillion. You don't file a number that you don't think is going to go up, right? So it's going to go up to 2 trillion, right? At 2 trillion, where's Tesla now? So now SpaceX will buy Tesla at 1 point whatever it is now, 1.2 trillion right now, whatever the market cap is right now. But then they have to wait. There's a lockup for at least 30 to 60 days.
60 lockups are
60 days? Yeah. At the least. Now, some people are going, yeah, but it's Elon and they've got to carve out. I think Larry Goldberg said this.
Everything changes when it's Elon.
Larry said that NASDAQ has special rules for massive corporation. This is going to be the single largest merger ever or whatever. IPO first and then potential merger. They might have already figured this out. But anyways, let's say it is 60 days later. They do somehow merge with Tesla. Very likely at that point, SpaceX is 2 trillion. And Tesla will they'll buy Tesla at a premium. And I agree with Alexander Mertz that that's what they're going to do.
I don't think they'll buy Tesla at a premium. I think at that point, they'll make a push to get Tesla stock up. And I don't think
merger of equals.
Yes, it's the cleanest way is to create a new cap table with both of them essentially at the same valuation. That's the cleanest way. That's what you'd want. And again, talk about leaks. Now that we hear David Faber saying this on CNBC, and like none of them are Tesla or Elon fans. We know that, right? So that's interesting. Chamath has been talking about this for,
he's the guy that's leaking things.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. So it's like, there's something
testing the waters
going on. Yeah. And then the whole conversation with Jason Calacanis, talking about like, oh, wait, oops. Yeah. Just, I don't know. It's just, think there's something. Think there's something.
Okay. The next big topic is there's a lot, but did you guys see all the cyber cabs out there? But let's go focus on this next one, which is X Money. So just now, this morning, Elon posted that X Money is going to be very big. He said, right? So here's X Money is in limited beta right now, but they've expanded the beta trials. And then I think there's been comments by Elon that it's going to go live in a month or two from now. This is using X account, X. Remember, this was Twitter, being able to actually use it for all sorts of money transactions. And he said this will be big. And he replied to a Tesla Economics post, but basically, you have the ability the interest rate when you keep your money in X accounts, which is there's a partnership with a bank. So this is all, formal, 6% APY. That's fantastic. And I think there's all sorts of lucrative cash backs and so forth. So they're going to make this very attractive. And this is William Shatner, who's been testing it out and he's been communicating this to everybody. Tesla Economics wrote this, and this is what Elon replied to. He said, I don't think people truly understand what's about to happen with X money. And of course, Elon, this was what he wanted, right? One place that runs your entire life, financial life. He wanted that from the very beginnings before X. He started X.com, which then merged with PayPal decades ago. And then he branded Twitter to become X because he wanted to become a financial. And then, yeah, so there's going to be all sorts of things happening with it.
Hey, can you guys remind me, what was one of the first major Silicon Valley companies that implemented an incredibly viral customer acquisition strategy?
That was PayPal.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Hey, I wonder what might be a really viral capital acquisition strategy for a money network. Might it be a best-in-class yield on your capital? Maybe it's cheap to suck up lots and lots of liquidity that way.
Yeah. Well, the argument people have right now is that this sounds like a normal bank, just normal bank, normal transactions.
Yeah.
But you know where
I mean,
Elon's going to take this. It's going to use
Tesla Model 3 is just a normal sedan, just like the Camry.
Explain more. Tell me what you're thinking this is going to become. Like just, it's of course XAI is built into this whole thing, right? So you got this power of an AI. You've got financial transactions, not only financial, easily me moving money to you, fine, use the same app. We're all connected together. It's a huge social network. Got it. But also it's got crypto, probably. It's got stocks. He'll probably do everything.
Yeah.
Right? Investments.
One of the things that was specifically mentioned, wrapped up in all that, was the stable coins. And so, it's built on cheap, fast, ubiquitous rails, I'm sure. Lots of different people in fintech are obviously trying to solve these problems. The thing about it is that everyone besides Elon thinks about the problems that they want to solve in a much more fragmented way. And this is just kind of generally true about how Elon operates, that he thinks about things, he alternates between like the microscopic scale. There was a exchange recently where someone said that, Elon, you're a micromanager. And he just laughed at the interviewer. He's like, micromanager, please. No, I'm a nano manager. Like I can drill down way further down below the micro level. And that is true. But then he's also by far the best macroscopic thinker, that, you don't come up with a plan to reach Mars and expand, your compute into a Matryoshka, sentient sun brain, because you can't think at the highest possible levels of abstraction. And having that outer bound range in both directions, in the small nanoscale and in the big macro scale, which comes from physics. Like, the boundaries of physics are the smallest of the small things and the biggest of the big things. And then he brings this frame and traverses from top to bottom in all the problems that he solves. And that allows him to identify how, where are solutions to problems that you see in one venue, where do they port to other venues that other people don't see, and you can create a fully integrated end-to-end system that is significantly larger in scope and scale than your competitors. And so this is global. Why Peter Thiel and David Sachs kicked Elon out as CEO, because his vision was so fucking huge.
It's too big. Yeah.
He scared the bejesus out of them, and they thought he was going to blow the company up. And in retrospect, who knows who would have been right? Maybe he would have figured it out. Maybe he would have blown it up because he was still immature and he wasn't quite to the level of sophistication he is today. But he's bringing all of his knowledge and experience that he's accumulated since then right back to this very same problem of, I want to suck up all the capital in the world, put it on one network, make that network as efficient as possible. It needs to operate by the very same principles that govern the operation of an internet network or an information technology network. And, that's going to manifest itself in different ways. And you're right, like there will be 100 different smaller pieces of the pie that you can look at and be like, well, that's just what Robinhood does, or that's just what SoFi does, or that's just what JP Morgan Chase does. And all of those things will be subdomains of the big thing that Elon is doing. And there's a network effects, economy of scale, and emergent properties that happens when you subsume all of those smaller things into one grand vision.
Yeah. He wanted to replace banks. And then those guys said, no, we should just be email, friend to friend email money transfer, which PayPal was very, very successful. They were smart to do that. But he said, remember back then, he said, why is it that when you want to wire money from one bank to another bank, it takes multiple days? And if you find out why, it's because they are archaic systems that don't communicate with each other. There's paper trails, all that kind of stuff. This will be.
Let me
the
add
number
one more
thing
layer,
is,
though, to the challenge and why that may not have been possible at that point in time, and why Peter and David may have been right, is because what he wanted to do was basically, to your point there, accelerate the speed of all of that. And the problem that they ran into, like a brick wall, was fraud. And so Elon, as Elon just went into the government to fight fraud, you got to remember that fighting fraud in money at scale using digital systems that ended up being the core technology, the core problem that PayPal had to solve not to go out of business, was because they had to just smash fraud to a very low level in order to keep it from bankrupting the entire business. And there was no way that they could operate at the scale that they wanted to operate at without solving all of those fraud challenges. And at the size of the things that he wanted to do, it may not have been possible technically at that point in time to keep fraud on a truly global money network in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, at bay enough to keep from speeding up your cash exfiltration to the point where, poof, you just, frauded yourself into bankruptcy.
And now you've got the crypto, the stable coins, you've got ways to track everything securely, privately, instantly.
Yep.
I think the breakthrough here is high savings rate. You have high savings rate. You beat everyone else. Instantly, everybody puts their money there. If you have a different business model than what the banks do, which, right, they invest that money, and so they don't give you, they lure you in with a high interest rate, but really they can't do it. And so now the Tesla or Elon could just tow the whole thing apart. But what's interesting is that this is part of XAX, which is now owned by XAI, which is owned by SpaceX. And then nobody's even talking about X money. We're all talking about, AI data centers, Starlink. How big could this be? Because
it's actually really important to have value transfer baked into your agentic artificial intelligence. And this is why there are so many different startups that are working on, crypto enhanced AI agent frameworks, is so that you can assign them tasks and they can earn money, and you can do bounties and all this stuff.
Earn money.
And so the combination of AI and money, which is really just a proxy for resource allocation, and optimizing, getting the most for the least possible value. Like it's an efficiency driver. That is going to be incredibly important. And that's one of the things that I know that Sam Altman would love to have that. And so would Dario Amodei, and even Google would love to have that. And none of them do. And this is one of those kind of dark horse competitive advantages, strategies, and vertical integration plays that Elon has, that is that it was a hole in the game board that other people either saw and didn't have a pathway to fill or just didn't even see to begin with.
This is the kind of question I asked them. How does he know? Like he wanted to buy X, Twitter at the time, right? You and I were living through that pain because of social media, because of
Hey,
free speech.
I was enjoying other people's pain during that process. I reveled in. I was like, this is gonna be the best thing ever, and people are just not even getting it.
Right. And then he formed XAI. Then he got X and XAI to form, to come together. Now all of a sudden he's got financial things. Now when he's trying to beat everyone else on AGI, which is what we talked about at the beginning, his angle could be, well, how are they going to make money? They have to charge customers $20 a month or $200 a month, right? That's what they do. Or they might need to replace a lawyer. That's what they're going to do. But Elon, he's going to do financial transactions, somehow make money there, which makes the most sense, right? And I love what you said, which is AI can make money for you, and that's what could afford the high savings rates.
I mean, how does universal high income operate? Like, is he giving you some ownership over an AI agent that is making money that he's making money off of, but you're also making a little bit of money off of? I don't know. That's kind of what the whole robotaxi, privately owned robotaxi model is. That I'm going to give you an AI agent that lives inside of a car. You're going to pay for it. You're going to generate this percentage of the revenue off of it, and I'm going to generate this percentage of the revenue off of it. We're going to split that. Yes. And everyone's going to be happy. Fat, dumb, and happy. Just like foretold in the prophecy of, oh gosh, what was the movie with the little trash robot?
Wall-E.
Wall-E, yep.
Do you guys think that's how it actually plays out?
I think so. Yes.
Oh, really?
I do. We're all gonna be sitting there watching TV all day long because there's nothing to do.
Oh no, not Wall-E. I mean, do you think we'll actually get to to high universal high base UBI, universal high basic
yes,
income?
we will, but it's going to be so lumpy along the way, and lots of wars and rebellions and civil distress and lots of people losing jobs before we get there.
You think this is like decades away, decades and decades away?
I wouldn't say decades, but I think that it's going to be lumpy on the way there.
Yeah. Have all those wars and everything. That's a lot of.
One of the questions I want to ask Elon, if I get to interview him, is how can you help or think this through? How do we make sure that it's not lumpy? As we head towards AGI, as AI takes over more people's jobs, how do we make sure that, money is being generated that can address? One example that I've been a big proponent of, let's say that human robots is being mass produced and being adopted by factories or companies and businesses. What they could do is a system where if a company buys a human or robot and displaces a worker, that there should be a tax on that the company has to pay that worker that was displaced. So that way, that it immediately can cover the people that it's replacing. Like that's, I think, an example of one way that you can make sure that it's not lumpy.
I would really prefer this not to end up being a tax. I would much rather see some sort of co-op where, all of the companies above a certain threshold of, gross profits are collaboratively, contributing a portion of those profits to something that has the intrinsic motivations baked into it to distribute that money better than a government, like a government being a corporation in the limit that serves itself at the expense of the people. That's a problem. So whatever that.
Well, that's what I actually just said, because the one way is that government taxes companies. And I'm saying that the company themselves sets aside a piece of what they've done.
Yeah.
Because when you buy human robots, you have to pay the vendor.
Well, I heard you say tax, and I think my brain just went. down
No,
the
yeah, yeah. What I'm saying is that the company themselves should actually have, because they're going to generate more revenue with the robot than they would if they're human. They should have a piece of that they are going to cover the human that they let go.
Yeah.
And like you said, that it could be a collective of corporations that do it. But anyways, I mean, we need to ask Elon how he could help think this through, and I'm sure he has, but it's gonna be lumpy. How do you think that X money could help Tesla specifically?
That's a good question. You could you give away free Tesla self-driving as one of the perks of participation in the network.
I think the only way would be to have like just the same way any other OEM has self-financing, but I don't really think there's upside. I also don't think I don't think you want to mix that too much. Like, let Tesla do what Tesla does. Let SpaceX do what they do. Let XAI do what they do. Let X do what they do. I know that it's kind of like in Google. Let YouTube do what they do. Let DeepMind do what they do. Like, don't try to make it messy. Now, obviously, there's vertical integration. So, like I said, if you have like vendor financing, of course, you're going to use that.
Right. So financing could be disrupted.
Yeah.
And so if you want to buy a car, instead of going through a bank, instead of borrowing money or financing or leasing it, you can use X money as some sort of benefit, some sort of reason why that's better.
Well, I mean, ideally, what you would want to do is the people with good credit scores, good credit-worthy people, you'd want to keep those clients so you can benefit off of them taking loans from you. And the ones that have worse credit scores, send those to Wells Fargo, send those to Bank of America. That's ideally what you would want to do. Same with insurance, right? Like they could benefit from an insurance perspective. That's another way, because insurance at the end of the day
payments
has to have
for the boring company tunnel access, payments for robo-taxi network. He's on a roll.
Those are good ones. But again, that's just, you're using the same rails is the thing. That's all you're really doing. So you don't have all the extra, transactional taxes that you don't see.
Exactly. Anything that benefits from microtransactions or lower transaction fees.
Yeah. Which is like how every brokerage firm makes their money. Right? Well, they make their money two different ways. One, transaction fees, right? They may be low now, but they still get their transaction fees. And then the other one is when you have your cash in there, they get to park it where they want to park it. Yeah, they'll pay you decent. Like Fidelity does really good job with, money markets, but in general, that is how they make a lot of their money as well. Obviously, there's like loans and things like that. And, when markets are down, they get to have nice margin calls and all that. Just kidding. But that's how they make the bulk of their revenue.
XAI just paid off $12.5 billion of debt that they had. I think in preparation for the IPO filing, maybe. But also, if he rolls out X money, there won't be debt anymore. You've got cash sitting there. You could use it to buy supercomputers.
Yeah,
is that the best way to invest the money would be to put it into a supercomputer and then have those tokens generate more money, right?
Well, what I wonder though is like how full-fledged will it be? Like I don't think ideally you don't want to just be a bank. I don't think that's where the money is. I think the money is from being a brokerage house. You want to have people to move their investments in, not their checking account.
Right.
Like Herbert, I bet you have barely anything in your checking account. Maybe a little bit, but the vast majority of your money is sitting in your brokerage account, and your brokerage account is separate from your checking account. Am I right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So I want to be a brokerage house, and I want to pull all that in.
That's what the conversation is apparently about what X money is. It's everything, not just savings.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because to be a brokerage house is it's not easy, and it's a lot of technology, and it's a lot of rails and internal plumbing. It's I mean we sorry, not to get like geeky here on everybody, but like if you understand like the repo markets, like the overnight repo markets, those exist because our financial plumbing is so archaic.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they exist. All right. That's how scary it almost is. And that's why you've seen the Fed pump in liquidity into the repo markets. But by starting from scratch, ideally, all that plumbing would be navigated through Chicago. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they go down that route. I mean, clearly Robinhood did it, so there's a path to do it in a more modern way. But yeah, I hope they do. I hope they lean into it hard on that sense.
There's definitely a part of me that hopes that they acquire Robinhood or acquihire Vlad, just because I think that Vlad is worth putting over, like, at Elon's direction, this project. You know, the amount of progress that he's made on this all by himself from zero, like, it is evidence of exceptional ability X1000.
You know, when you think about that, when SpaceX goes IPO and it is valued at 1.75 trillion, and Elon owns 56% of that, and just that alone can push him to $1 trillion worth market cap. At any time he wants to, he can buy Robinhood, chump change. Okay, he can buy Tesla stock. He just bought $1 billion worth September. I mean, at that point, it's like everything he's ever wanted, he can now do. Not that he couldn't do it before, but he can do it much easier.
This could be a complete tangent. Sorry, it's Hans' last night, so I gotta make the most of it while I got him here. You don't feel a little weird when it comes to Vlad and all this kind of sus stuff that happened during the AMC GameStop time period? Like, I don't know the whole story, and I don't know all the ins and outs of what actually happened. And I know there's probably like there's always two sides to every story, but I'm just curious. Like that's kind of like my turn off. It's like I don't know the whole story, but something wasn't right.
Oh, I definitely wasn't right. And fortunately, I didn't have a dog in the
I didn't either
hunt back then, so it didn't overly.
But I watched it.
Yeah, my retrospective take on it is that was a lot more about just inexperience and improper preparation for it, a legitimately like way out of distribution event. And I think he learned a lot from that. And so the ability, or I guess I'm willing to cover over past sins in that case because of the amount of customer focus that they have shown since then. Like, I think it was a legitimate failing, and I think they legitimately learned from it. And, you know, their focus on not only UI in a big UI UX is a big expression of that, just how customer centric they are in that regard. But then in many other regards, just really, really trying to please customers, serve customers, offer great experiences.
Do you guys?
I think that they.
Yeah, I use Robinhood. Not often, just small amounts. But you know, I think that if he was going to do that, Hans, he would have done it already. They went and built X money. They're about to launch it at this point.
I know.
It's not like diminishing.
Well, and the other thing is, it's
to bring him on.
To steel man against myself, Vlad is an alpha dog, player, and would he be willing to work under Elon and integrate into a team?
Probably. Elon was the one that invited him to the clubhouse call. We were there.
Well, he called him out, right? He was calling him out.
Well, but I think he was doing it to help him. I think he was doing it to help him.
Give him a platform. Memories on this. I think he was calling him out. He was like, "You have to explain yourself on what happened here."
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, okay. We digressed a lot, but that was fun.
that's all right. It's fun.
It's fun.
It's it's kind of like I love watching the
Eclectic
financial
corner.
space. Yeah, I like watching the financial space intertwine with technology, intertwine with I don't know, like life science, like humanoids talking about brains and stuff. Like it's just I don't know. It's fun to see
Yeah.
like all these different topics come together.
Okay. I think we can go, but boy, I'm just to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. I'm still kind of not sure that XAI is going to catch up again. They've fallen behind. Oh, okay, good. Hans is saying no. We'll have that conversation after we close this out. Tell me why. Thanks, everybody. See you
Cheers.
soon. Bye. All.
See ya.